Good afternoon. Welcome to the Mary H. Weiser Center monthly webinar. We're going to focus, as always, on the social and emotional aspects of living with food allergy. I'm Kim Menzel, the food allergy counselor at our allergy clinic and here at the Weiser Center. We're one of the few clinics to have a full-time counselor on our team to ensure a holistic approach to food allergy management. Our team includes allergists, nurse educators, dietitians, and a research coordinator. My position is funded by the generous donations of supporters of the Mary H. Weiser Center. The center was recently named a Discovery Center of Distinction by FAIR in recognition of their advances in biomedical research into the origin and treatment of food allergy. You can visit uofmfoodallergy.org to learn more about our many research initiatives in pursuit of a cure. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Jonathan Newman to be mapping a course to staying safe as a student athlete. We know that athletes train to win, to have the strength, endurance, and focus to succeed. Just as they have to train to learn how to stay calm under intense pressure, they can learn to stay safe and not be benched by a food allergy reaction. From Little League, soccer, to dance, kids can participate in sports safely. Jonathan Newman is an athlete, a baseball coach, and an adjunct professor of kinesiology at Hope College. He's lived with food allergies his entire life, including allergies to tree nuts, fish, and beef. He holds a bachelor's degree in secondary education and a master's degree in higher education. Jonathan joins us to share his wide range of experiences as an athlete and his perspective as a coach to help parents and individuals with food allergies to reimagine what's possible. We need you, as always, to contribute to our conversation. So we want you to speak what's on your mind. Send us your questions using the Q&A. We'll take your questions throughout the hour. Jonathan hopes to really engage with you on what's on your mind. So Jonathan, thanks so much for joining. Sports involve close contacts on buses, locker rooms, touching shared equipment, eating snacks and meals together, navigating all of these situations while still having fun. And parents, coaches, people with food allergy can have varying levels of understanding about what that means and also concern. Can we begin? Can you share your story, being an athlete growing up with food allergies?
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is definitely something that I've been looking forward to. I know that we were going to try to do something over the summer, but I'm happy this day is finally here too. So yeah, I would say I would like to let parents know too that people are well more educated on food allergies now, more so I would say than when I was growing up. I would definitely say that my family sometimes didn't understand, especially with the beef and the fish. They couldn't wrap their head around it. I would say that the nut is more well known to most people, but they couldn't understand that. I was actually not as allergic to beef and fish, but I was fairly allergic to beef and fish as well. And that remained true all the way to college. My college coach was an older school guy, and he couldn't wrap his head around it either as well. So what I will say is, as I've gotten older, I have grown out of food allergies. So it hasn't always just been beef, fish, and tree nuts. I was allergic to just about anything growing up, which I think not a lot of kids, but kids that have a lot of food allergies, they tend to grow out of them once they get to their teenage years, once they hit puberty. So I was allergic to grapes. I was allergic to orange juice. I was allergic to green beans, corn, you name it. I really wasn't able to eat a whole lot of foods. It was a lot of certain meats and certain vegetables, and lots of rice. I remember that as well. So I was very fortunate to grow out of a lot of it. And because of that, I've always been very grateful. I have never, in my adult life or even my early teenage years, I have never felt like my allergies have held me back just because I've grown out of a lot of them. So I've never kind of felt like a victim for it. But that's also because I shared this with Kim earlier on. My allergies aren't, at least I didn't think so when I was growing up, life-threatening. I'm somebody that has never used an EpiPen in my entire life. I have definitely had some severe reactions, but I had never stuck myself with the EpiPen. My Benadryl has always worked for me. So I would say that my story would be maybe a little different from everybody else's, but to sum everything up, because I outgrew a lot of my allergies, I never felt like the ones that I were stuck with ever held me back.
So as you were young and navigating, were you on like a travel team for
Yes.
baseball? How did that work? Because I know parents will tell me, how can they possibly, we always travel with them. How can they go by themselves? They're going to have to stay at hotels. They're going to have to eat at places that are unfamiliar. How can that possibly work? And kids could be eating. So we have kids with dairy allergies, kids with wheat allergies, kids with egg allergies in addition. So the whole top 9. And they worry not only about will they eat something and the ingesting and that will cause a reaction, but also will they come into contact, and then they're going to have potentially rash, hives, and a more severe reaction. So they get worried not just about the ingesting, but the coming into contact. And I know you just shared a story with me. Maybe you can share that story about coming into contact with your allergen and what you experienced, and maybe what you would tell those parents about how that can be managed.
Yep. Yeah. So I only one time did I have a reaction where I didn't ingest it. So we were playing cards. Me and my family were in Florida. We were playing euchre, and everybody was eating pistachios. So they were cracking them open with their hands, touching the cards. And just so happened, my neck started to get itchy, and somebody to the right of me or left said, "John, like your throat's all like rashy." And I was like, "No way, like I don't understand, like it is really, really itchy." And then it ended up going all the way across my neck. My throat didn't swell up, the inside of my mouth didn't get all tingly, my eyes didn't swell up. All I had was just hives along my neck. And what ended up happening was I took some Benadryl, and to be frank, I didn't even know if that was the right move, but I took some Benadryl and I was totally 100% fine, probably quicker than any reaction I ever experienced. It went away a lot faster. So I know that there is a chance, or some are more allergic than others. When you touch something and it gets on your body, that happens. The thing that I would say is to control what you can control, and you have to set yourself up. If you're on a travel team and you have to make sure that you have food for you that you can eat, are you going to be able to control what everybody else can eat? Absolutely not. Can you control communicating with them? Absolutely, you can. So what I would say is prepare yourself with food, but also prepare yourself with medicine, with the EpiPen, and just control what you can control in those certain situations. And I didn't start playing travel sports until I was 16 years old. And it was a little different growing up. There wasn't as many travel leagues as there is now. But once I got to that age where I was 16, I was very self-sufficient, and I knew exactly what I could and I couldn't eat. Did I make mistakes? I made some mistakes for sure. But I knew for myself, because I had dealt with it for my entire life, that I wasn't going to put something in my body that was going to make me sick. So I would encourage parents to, once your child gets to a certain age, hopefully maybe 13, 14 years old, they know what they can and can't eat, because they're going to listen to their minds. Like, they don't want to put something in their body that's going to make themselves sick. Now, accidents do happen. I just recently had one as well. But you have to eventually obviously trust your kids, but help them out, prepare them with food for the road.
So we just got an audience question that I think speaks to what you're talking about. Should parents of kids in youth sports ask for a meeting with coaches and coordinators at the start of the season to outline do's and don'ts, emergency procedures, etc.? Do you recommend that?
I would say it depends on how severe the allergy is, because what can happen to the kid is he can feel like he's a burden. And that's just me speaking to my own personal story, I guess. I hated when my parents talked about my allergies in front of people that I didn't really know, because I was, not ashamed of it, but a little bit embarrassed. And I didn't want to have that type of attention on me. I wanted to be kind of a normal guy. So I would hesitate on that, because what could end up happening is your child could then get self-conscious about it. But if they absolutely need that, like they're going to go into anaphylactic shock if it's around them, I would say that you have to communicate with the coaches then, but use the common sense.
I think that's a great point. I think a lot of the people that will be watching this, either are people themselves or their child has a life-threatening food allergy. So definitely anaphylaxis could occur. And we know that the last reaction does not predict the severity of the next. So
No.
one of the things we recommend at the clinic is share the food allergy action plan and make sure that there's an understanding of, so these are the allergies. This is where either the child is, an older child's carrying their own medication. So they're going to have that on them on a flip belt, or it's going to be in their backpack, or is there another adult that's holding it for them? So, but in understanding, and then maybe for older kids, they can navigate some of the details of, okay, coach, we're going to be stopping and eating. So remember, I have these allergies. So, how should we plan for that? So I think you can involve them, but also setting them up with some information in writing. So give them a copy of the food allergy action plan, because that's going to spell out the allergies, the symptoms, what the reaction could look like, and then it can prompt a discussion. But that's an easy way to get some awareness going, that it doesn't necessarily put the kid in feeling in the hot seat. Like, it's just, well, we share that with everyone that you're going to be spending time with.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think it is obviously, when we talked, everybody's allergies are different. And if it is super severe, there has to be a plan in place. I went to school with a kid that had very serious peanut allergies, and he had to eat lunch separately. So it was communicated to everybody, and that could go along with sports too. We don't have a guy on our team right now that has that severe of an allergy, but we do have guys that have food allergies. So we don't have an action plan that we have to take place, or we can't eat certain foods, but we always adhere to those needs, especially for food allergies. So communicating with the coach, they're coaching because they love kids. They're coaching because they like to be around young people, and doing something like having, everybody not eat peanuts or whatever is not going to be a huge burden to them by any means. So
You're a baseball player. So, I mean, I always think of baseball associated with like people eating peanuts in the stadiums. Is that
no.
something? So when you've gone to baseball games, how have you handled that?
So peanuts are not an issue for me. Tree nuts are what is the issue for me. So I have never really had to deal with that, but I have a close friend who is allergic to peanuts, and he's very severely allergic to peanuts. And I have seen him react to people having peanuts and throwing the shells on the ground, whether it would be at a restaurant or what have you. So what we did was, it was around COVID. So he just wore his mask the entire time, and it actually really helped him. So I would say, just based off of that experience with my friend, that wearing a mask in an environment like that actually might really benefit, especially if you're in a closed room. Outside, I would assume that it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but indoors for sure, wearing a mask would help, I think.
So not that mask helped to not be breathing in the dust that can happen when people are shelling peanuts.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we had another audience question. What did you take with you? So maybe in your teens, when you were on the travel team, that other people without food allergies might not. For example, something to wash or wipe your hands with, or like your own water bottles. How did you start to, and then maybe in college, how did you start to think through, like, what do I need to have with me?
Yep. So I actually had a bracelet that I wore that let kind of everybody know about my food allergies. So it on the back of it, it would let them know what my allergies were, what should happen if I've gone unconscious to hit me with the EpiPen. So I carried an EpiPen with me wherever I went. I had quick reacting Benadryl with me too. It was a liquid, but like a dissolvable form that I had with me at all times. And with the water bottle situation, I would say that I could probably count on my hands, my one hand, how many times I didn't bring my own water bottle to an event. And it was because I forgot, right? So I always had my own water bottle because of reasons like that. That is a big thing. You have to make sure that you have your own thing to drink out of. And now with COVID-19, we are very, very concerned about the kids not sharing water bottles. So what we do is we have disposable cups. So it actually, I don't know how that probably won't happen at the younger levels, but there has been some benefits to COVID-19 for people with food allergies because we're taking the germs more into consideration. So
Absolutely. I think it's made us think about shared areas, shared air, shared surfaces differently than the average person thought about. So that somebody grabbing your water bottle and then you not realizing might be less of a concern now because everyone's so focused on, no, I can't share food. We can't drink out of the same.
yeah,
And
and
that stays.
and I would say the younger children are probably very much aware of that too, just as teenagers would be. It's the 18 to 22-year-olds that think that they're invincible that you have to worry about. They don't think as much, I think. But for the younger guys, yeah, and that'll trickle on upward to once they get older, it'll be more of an understanding, I think. So it is good.
Have you ever been teased or bullied because of needing to avoid certain foods or situations or saying something?
Yeah, I kept it real tight. I didn't share it. I didn't talk about it. Like I said, when my parents would talk about it, I got uncomfortable. My close friends knew about it. The only time that maybe I felt uncomfortable was because or got bullied was because I might have reacted poorly when somebody said something about it and I got embarrassed. And you know how when you get embarrassed as a kid, somebody's going to poke even harder at it. So I would say yes and no. There's nothing really that I can really remember that has heavily impacted me on it, but I was embarrassed of it, growing up, especially when I was a really young kid, when I was allergic to everything. So I would say as I got older, I got more and more comfortable with it because I outgrew so many allergies. And I think my story is a little different and unique to others. So.
Yeah, you needed to avoid foods that other people wouldn't immediately recognize as foods people would be allergic to. So I imagine there was a lack of understanding. What are you talking about? You can't have orange.
Huge.
What
And
are you
in
talking about?
my grandparents on my mother's side were immigrants too. So they tried to keep feeding me it. So it wasn't just beef. It's basically red meats. So like venison, lamb, stuff like that. I can't eat either. And lamb is a huge part of my mom's side of the family's culture. Like they eat that a lot. And so they would make it for me and I would look at it and it would look so good and I would want to eat it. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't do it. And my grandparents watched me growing up. And I remember my grandpa being like, eat, like you need to eat, because they're Italian. So you have to eat the food, right? That's just how they are. And I'd be like, I can't, I'm not going to do it. And I would be firm on it because I knew how I would feel. I'd be throwing up later, but he didn't think it was the beef. They didn't think it was the red meat. They thought it was something else. They were convinced it was something else. So,
I
and
hear
they
the
thought it was
story
meant.
sometimes that like extended family, maybe grandparents will say, well, it's just that they haven't had enough of it. If they keep having it, their
Yes.
bodies will get used to it. Then they'll be okay. So they will keep trying to give the child. So it sounds like you were in that situation where you had to keep saying, I can't, even in the face of they didn't understand, it just wasn't something they had ever encountered.
Yeah.
And as you got older, did that change with extended family understanding? Like
Yeah.
he just can't.
Yeah. Yes, definitely 100%. I think once my parents like saw it happen like a handful of times, it was like, listen, like this is what it is. Like you can't do it. So I would say definitely. And then once I got older and we did it for so long, like my mom's side of the family, like I said, they're immigrants. They're phenomenal cooks. They changed the way that they cooked because of me. Everything's turkey. Everything was ground turkey. The way they made meatballs, the sauce, everything turkey. I got very well fed still, and I made everybody in my mind healthier eaters because of my food allergies. So everybody kind of got bought into it, and we moved on from it for sure. Especially once I outgrew all those other allergies, I would say too.
Yeah, your list got shorter, and I imagine so that became easier for people to think of. How
Yeah,
can we make a meal he can be a part of and he can enjoy the food too, or a substitute for him?
exactly. Yep, exactly.
So we have a good question on, as parents of a young child, how would you recommend that they begin? So how did you ultimately learn to tell like friends and teammates that you do have food allergies? What words do you use when you're meeting new people and they need to know?
Okay. Yep. So um, I would say being upfront and honest. So the words that I would say is, well, I actually have a really great, like I'm allergic to tree nuts. Okay, that's normal. But I have this crazy food allergy where I'm allergic to beef. And then they say, no way. Like what happens? And I explain to them, you know, I could go into anaphylactic shock. Like I get my throat swells up, my eyes swell up, the whole 9 yards. And they're like, have you lived with it your whole life? They're just more interested in it than anything. But I think starting off saying, I have this crazy food allergy, this rare food allergy. It's people are more intrigued now as I've gotten older than they are like, wow, like that's taboo. Like I can't believe that, you are the way you are. So being very upfront, honest, kind of letting them know like, hey, I do have a very, different circumstance than most has worked out for me, I would say. And then communicating with your coaches. I saw a question in there too about communicating with coaches. I think I alluded to this at the beginning. The coaches love to coach. Like you don't coach to, become rich or famous. Like you coach because you love the game, you love what it taught you, you love the kids, and you want to develop relationships with them. Being upfront and honest with your coach, I think, should be easy to do because they're spending some of their free time, I would assume, in most of these situations to be with these kids because they enjoy it. They want to see the kids enjoy it and love a sport that they loved growing up that might have helped them get through something tough or whatever. So communicating with your coaches, being upfront and honest with them about everything, sharing the plan with them shouldn't be difficult. They should be very, very understanding. I would think that communicating with other parents that are on the team is going to be the more difficult thing. And to have a coach that's really on board, try to let him alleviate some of that pressure on you, I guess, to get everybody to be bought into it, to get behind it. So I would think that most people would be very understanding though, for the most part, for sure.
So one thing with our younger kids, I've heard parents say, well, the way I handled it is I like sent an email to the parents and said, hey, because people share bringing snack. Hey, given that we're all going to share bringing snack, this is something that I need to let everybody know. Is there a way that we can, think about that when you're bringing snacks? So maybe we don't bring snacks that contain peanuts at all. So the kids with food allergy to peanuts can have the snack and not always have to bring their own. So could we leave and the top 9, so that includes egg and dairy, sesame, peanuts, tree nuts. So it may be helping them be familiar. Like, could we look at bringing fruit or something else, or at least in addition to, and I know that sometimes it just means that you're going to have to bring a lot of your own food and always have something on hand. But, if other parents know, well, these things, not everybody can eat things containing these ingredients, then I'll think about that when I'm thinking about what to bring for snacks. So for our younger kids, it just may mean I share a little bit of information to educate them so that they can be aware, and then they can think about snacks more broadly.
Mhm.
What did you do when you were younger? Did you just always bring your own food?
Yeah, so like I said, I was, and I don't want parents to not communicate with other parents about their children's allergies, because it's important. You have to let everybody know, especially when you're on a team or a classroom, whatever it might be. But my parents, my dad, if anybody knows my dad is he's a very outgoing person, wears his emotions on his sleeves. He had no problem sharing my personal food allergies with everybody else. So everybody knew, and my dad was very involved with the community growing up. So what I would say is that I always had something for me on hand, whether it would be just a small little snack. But as I got older, and when I was with the team, I was with the same exact team from when I was probably 8 years old all the way till I was 16 or 15. Everybody knew what my allergies were, what I had, what I could eat, what I couldn't eat. And so if we had like a cookout, okay, for example, and people were making hamburgers and hot dogs, I can't eat those things. I could probably count on one hand how many times I didn't have anything to eat. People knew of my allergy. Hey, I got chicken for you, don't worry. Like we're gonna cook up some chicken. So at sporting events, I had stuff for me that, because I needed to eat in between games and stuff. So I had stuff for me. But when I would go to social events and what have you, and hang out with people were very aware of what I was dealing with. So I think I was very lucky. I do. I think I was lucky to play with the same group of people for a very extended period of time. So I think getting the ball rolling might be a little difficult. But if you're able to stay within a group for a while, people will band together and help you out.
So what would you say to kids? Now you're older, and we know one of the things that can happen is, so boys in particular are in a higher risk group of not carrying their EpiPen. So we talk about it a lot, needing to have your epinephrine with you all the time and be ready to use it if you're having a reaction. What would you say to other young men? Because that's our highest risk group, our young adolescent through mid 20s. That's our group where they are most at risk of having a fatal reaction because they tend to delay treatment and not carry their epinephrine with them.
Yeah. So I would say I fall into that category, of not doing a good job of carrying that EpiPen with me. And I recently had a reaction to pistachios where I knew after I ate it, like after I swallowed it, I knew what I did. And I immediately went to the gas station because I didn't even have Benadryl with me. I was at a friend's house and I got Benadryl. I took 75 milligrams, which is a lot, and took my Benadryl and kind of just waited it out. Eyes got super puffy, throat got really swollen, nose started to get clogged up, and I was having a hard time breathing. So that's when I should have had an EpiPen and shot myself with an EpiPen. I would say, and you had alluded to this earlier, Kim, is that not every reaction is the same. Your last reaction is not going to be the same as the next reaction. That couldn't be more true. And especially because over a period of time, I shared with you the last time I think I had a nut allergy was 8 years ago. This was the first one in 8 years that I've had, right? So if you haven't had a reaction in a while, don't just think that or if your last one was just mild, don't just think that you're okay, because Benadryl kind of does the trick. I thought that, and I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't tell anybody I was having a hard time breathing. It was people could hear it in my voice. People could hear how I was breathing, that I was wheezing, and they asked, "Are you having a hard time breathing?" And it was like, no. I wanted to keep everybody calm in the situation that I was in. And luckily, what ended up happening was I threw up, and it opened up my throat, and I was able to breathe, and I was able to kind of recover, and I didn't end up having to shoot myself with my EpiPen. But did I learn my lesson? Absolutely, I learned my lesson. So I have my EpiPen with me. I would say it's in my car right now. It's in any travel bag that I have. Am I 100% perfect with it? No, but I know exactly where it is, and it's not within a far reach. So anytime I'm traveling, I make sure that I bring it now. And I do travel quite a bit too. So it is super, super important to know that your last reaction does not, it can be completely different the next time.
And it sounds like that really reinforced for you the idea of, I need to always have it with me, because
Yep.
I bet that was really scary.
Yeah, it was, but it was more of like, I don't want to. I was down on myself. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're a 20, mid-20s guy. You're on your own. Like, take care of yourself, right? Like, it snapped it back into reality. I didn't take it as like, oh, that was a scary moment. It was like, let's learn from it. Like, let's move on. So, and I think that's the big thing with like food allergies. It's like, so I've thought about this before. It's almost like diabetes, and it's not, but it is. So I've had friends that have like diabetes that play sports. They have to have the little pouch on their side. They have to take their blood sugar consistently. They control what they can control. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Sometimes it doesn't work out for them, and they have to recover from it. And they're able to recover because they're prepared. They have the things with them to be able to come through with that. And I think food allergies have to be looked at the same way, especially when you run the risk of what other people are eating around you. So you have to just be prepared, and you have to deal with it. And you can't, people that have the type 1 diabetes, that's what they have. They deal with it. They go through life dealing with it. And that's how food allergies has to be approached as well. We can't sit back and not live a life because we have food allergies that very well could be a great excuse to hold us back from doing things. We have to go out there, and we have to learn from our mistakes, and we have to be prepared. And I know that can come across as being a little scary or too forward, because the last thing a parent wants is to see their child suffering like that. It's not great. I understand that. But know that mistakes are going to happen. Like, they will happen. We have to learn from them, and we just have to be prepared. So as long as we do some of the things that we talked about, where we carry our EpiPen, we have Benadryl with us, we can kind of get out in front of it. It's good things. Good. I think we're going to be able to power through it and get better and enjoy, life, things that we can do for fun.
Not miss out. One of the phrases we use is, we need to be cautious but not fearful. So in cautious, I can plan, I can sort of think through situations I might end up in, I can problem solve, I can communicate. That's all part of just being cautious. Like, when I get in my car, I put my seatbelt on. I make sure I have enough gas. I'm not planning on having an accident or running out of gas, but I check in, do I have everything I need? And then I up my chances that I'm going to be safe when I go drive in my car. And I think that cautious, not fearful, is so important for kids with food allergies, because it's true that people can get very much into the fear around all the what ifs and no nos, like what could happen. So I'm just going to start avoiding. And as the counselor, I talk with a lot of kids who are avoiding a lot of stuff. So they avoid going to friends, they avoid going to play sports, they avoid going to restaurants. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would definitely say that kids are going to react to kind of how their parents react. Okay. So in a situation where, when I was having my reaction, there was a girl that my most recent one, there was a girl there that was very emotional and very concerned. She had a good heart and everything I understood, but she was very, like, I knew how I felt and I knew I was going to be okay. The whole entire time I stayed calm. I kept my heart rate down. Like, I didn't get super, super anxious. And had I gotten anxious, I think I really would have needed to, it wouldn't have been good. But I was so calm throughout all of it because I had been in that situation before. Maybe it wasn't as bad, but I had a reaction before and I knew I'd be able to come through it. I was able to overcome it. If parents get too excited internally, you can be super concerned because obviously that's what's going to happen. You don't want to see your child reacting like that. I don't have kids, but I can understand. But on the outside, you have to be calm. You have to stay calm. And you have to think about when an EMT or a doctor comes into a room and you see the patient's leg is severed or there's a bone sticking out or whatever. I broke my leg over the summer. The EMT was very, very calm when she came and talked to me. Was I calm? Absolutely not. Did she make me more calm? Absolutely she did. So I think about people around you, how they respond to the situation is how they're in turn going to respond. So we have to educate our kids. We have to let them know, like, this is going to be okay. Like, as severe as an allergy is going to be, it's going to be okay. And we can't allow our children, and I'm speaking, and I am a 26-year-old man with no kids. I know I don't have children, but we can't allow them to feel like the victim. And we have to show them that they can overcome this. They can deal with this. Are there going to be mistakes? Is it going to be a little uncomfortable and painful? Yeah, it will be. But this is the hand we're dealt with, right? This is what we have to deal with. And I think the quicker that we can kind of start to understand that as parents, I think the faster that our children are going to be able to understand that. And I was very lucky to have a dad that didn't allow, he wouldn't allow it. He was a very hard-nosed person. And at the time, maybe I didn't like it, but now as you get older, you kind of see the benefits of it. So I don't want us to not care about our kids. That's not what I'm saying, but I want us to understand that the way we respond is how our children are going to respond, which is
It's a great point. And
Yeah.
and we know that one of the things that parents who are managing their kids' food allergies and raising kids with food allergies, one thing they have to learn is dealing with their own worry and anxiety, because of course that can then, just as you said, that can then really impact what the perspective of that child, and really ramp up their fear level, and also make them much more averse. And so then they'll just start avoiding things because they imagine all the ways in which things could go really badly. And so at the clinic, one things that our allergist always reinforces, okay, learn your symptoms, know your allergies, be able to tell people, be able to know and understand and recognize your symptoms. What would it look like if you were having a reaction? What would you do? And tell me, what is your food allergy action plan? So what are the steps? And then we tell kids to repeat to themselves over and over, I know what to do. I have a plan. I'll be safe. So like you said, even if something unexpected happens, do I know what to do to respond? Well, that's really what matters. If I know how to respond so that I can help myself in that unexpected situation, then there's no reason I need to be avoiding for fear that I won't be okay. You can be okay as long as you're prepared, and you also have really practiced, what would it look like if I was having a reaction? What would I say? What would I do? Who would I ask for help? And so we tell kids, practice with your trainer, and always make sure somebody knows these are my allergies, and if I need help, I'm going to ask you to help me. So as a coach, would you, if you didn't have food allergies and a kid said to you, I'm allergic to peanuts, would you learn how to use my epinephrine, my EpiPen, so that if I needed you to, you would help me? As a coach, how do you think that would be received?
Oh, I think it would be honored. Like, yes, thank you for coming and talking to me. Um, Especially if a teenage boy or girl or a 9-year-old comes up to you, like, yes, that, like, we have big hearts, that's why
Mm.
we do what we do, I think. So, but what I will, just to talk about your plan, as you get older, the more you repeat that plan to yourself, and you don't even have to repeat it anymore because it's just second nature to you. It doesn't, you don't have to think, you react, and you react in accordance to your plan because you've been so prepared. So I want to tell parents that too. As you get older, the child knows the plan. He knows the plan. He knows what he needs to do, because I can tell you, he doesn't like the way that he's feeling physically. He doesn't like it. He's going to try to do something to help himself out. And as a young kid, the quicker we can kind of memorize that plan and know that plan, he or she is going to be in great shape to take care of themselves when a reaction does take place, because they memorize it, they know how to do it, they're just going to react. And that's what you have to do, because you're going to be under pressure a little bit, because you have a reaction, and the best way to perform under pressure is to just react. We tell our guys, from coaching, training versus trusting. Training is like practice time, trusting is game time. It's the same thing when you have a reaction. You train yourself with you have your action plan, you memorize it, you talk about it, but then we trust it. When we do have a reaction, we got to trust, we got to just react, and we got to memorize it. That's how we're going to be able to perform in those pressure situations.
That makes a lot of sense. So we have a question from an audience member. So do you feel like your food allergies got in the way of you being as competitive as you wish to be? Um, did you have to change or modify what sports you took up or how you did things?
No, so I had mentioned earlier, I was blessed. My mother did a great job of adhering to my needs. I was still able to eat a lot. I'm actually the biggest out of my three brothers. So I have two younger brothers. I'm the biggest, the tallest one. I weigh the most. And I would say that I didn't have to play different sports because of my allergies. To be honest with you, I think my allergies made me healthier. My body responded extremely well to training. I was very fortunate because of that. So no, it didn't. It didn't affect that.
There wasn't something you wanted to do that you didn't do because you just thought, I cannot see my way clear to do that.
100% no. 100% no.
Nice to hear that. And it was also your parents' response. It sounds like it was, you can do this. Let's just figure out a way.
And I'm not going to say that it was butterflies and rainbows the whole time either. I can remember clearly my mother sobbing because she fed me the wrong food. She was very upset, right? But for the most part, it was continuing to just figure out what worked best for me to overcome that allergy. Because I had it a lot when I was a kid, obviously, with all those different allergies that I experienced, right? But as I got older and we kind of figured out which one I could and I couldn't have, it was almost, like I said, it was almost like a win for us to only have what I had, right? So yeah, they were very encouraging, very like, hey, you got this, you can do this. They had seen me do it before too.
I think you make a great point. I hear that from parents all the time. I need to let go of the guilt because I thought I had looked at the ingredients well enough, and then I realized there was dairy, or I trusted what I gave them because we had used that exact brand, but the manufacturer had changed and I didn't realize, and now it contained egg. And I hear from parents that they really beat themselves up around this, making a mistake. And I love what you said about that because, yeah, it's real. Your mom went through a lot of emotions around feeling really responsible when you had a reaction. But at some point, it's, learning to let that go so you can keep moving forward. And as an athlete, it seems to me you would be very proficient in needing to leave what just happened a minute ago behind, or else you're not going to be able to be here for what's happening right now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it gets easier too with your kids, because you learn, right? That's what life is all about. That's what even this dealing with the food allergies is all about. You learn from your mistakes, you learn what happens, you learn what works. And once we learn, we start to feel more comfortable, and when we start to experience more. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect, right? We're going to get more bumps in the road, but we're going to continue to learn, and we're going to learn more, and we'll be able to experience more. So I'm not saying let's not try to conquer the whole world in one day, right? But let's put ourselves out there a little bit so we can start to move forward instead of just staying in the same spot, right? And we're going to
Right.
make mistakes along the way when we do that, no doubt.
So how do you think, like, younger kids, how could they deal with that shared equipment? So we had talked before we started today about like residue. So particularly kids with, so the nut allergies, dairy, well, any of the allergies, that residue that can be, on kids' hands after they eat a snack, and then everyone's sharing, the same soccer ball, everyone's sharing the same bat. How, when we're touching the same things, as a coach, how do you think teams could handle that? Or what might be something parents could ask for to help wipe off equipment or not share? How could we reduce the risk of that contamination through contact?
Yeah. So if we have one kid on our team that has that severe peanut allergy, we're gonna make it a nut-free zone. Like that's the first thing that we're gonna have to do. We're gonna make it a nut-free zone. We have to, and we will try our best to monitor that. And we have to assume that all the parents are going to be well informed, right? Because we'll reach out to them, we'll let them know, we'll make sure everybody's well aware of that. But doing the simple things like bringing hand sanitizer, bringing wipes to be able to clean your hands is a very simple way, I think, to, if something does happen where somebody does bring a peanut, we can be proactive, and we can react instead of just, okay, it's time for us to go. No, let's not push it to the limit a little bit, but let's be proactive. Let's wipe everything down here. It won't take that long, especially if you're in a sport like soccer, where really it's the ball, that's it, that you're sharing. It's not going to take that long. In a sport like baseball, you wipe down all the bats. It's not going to take that long. You wipe down the ball, or maybe you grab new balls. Like it shouldn't be that extravagant of a process to be able to accomplish.
So thinking it through, coming up with a plan should be workable
Mhm.
in any of these situations. It sounds like it just is about having that conversation and thinking it through. I want, so the kids that might be watching, I really want to reinforce the idea that kids with allergies can do everything everyone else can do. And it just might require some more planning and preparation. And there are many professional athletes with food allergies. Tennis player Serena Williams has a peanut allergy. NHL player Tom Pody to peanuts and shellfish. Alex Tagliani, an Indy 500 car driver, allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. There's an NFL player, Drew Brees, has food allergies to dairy, wheat, eggs, and nuts. And freestyle aerials champion Steve, and I'm not sure how to say this, Omischel, has a peanut allergy. So people doing all kinds of different sports, and doing those sports, I'm sure, since they were young, finding their way through conversation, through preparation, through trying to, and making their way through so that they can do the thing that they love. Kids
Mhm.
with food allergies need to stay in the game. We can't let food allergies win, and we can learn strategies to stay safe. So I wonder, Jonathan, maybe we can summarize some strategies. So it sounds like talking to the coaches, every adult who spends time needs to know, okay, there's an allergy, and if they're not familiar, so what does that look like for you? What would be your symptoms? And an easy way to, share that copy of that food allergy action plan. We can address shared snacks and, any kinds of celebrations that could involve food, eating at restaurants. So do you have any ideas, over the years, how did you learn to eat at restaurants safely. So
Yeah.
ordering at unfamiliar places.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that, I would say, was one of the things that was hard for me to get over, because I can remember very clearly having reactions to food that, especially because I'm allergic to beef, eating chicken at a restaurant, but having a reaction because that they were using the same spatula, they were flipping. So that took some time. But what I always did growing up was I let them know that I had a food allergy, and that was hard for me to do, believe it or not, because I didn't want to come across as like somebody that was needy. But it became easier when I did it for the first time. I put myself out there, right? I did it once and it wasn't that big of a deal. I did it again, wasn't that big of a deal. So I just had to kind of put myself out there to let the person know, hey, I have a food allergy. Is there any way that you could be careful with this? And I let them know what I had. So you have to communicate with the server. Um, and I was always very much communicating like, hey, if I eat beef, it's not life threatening to me. Do I get swollen and yes, I do, but it's not like, I don't want you guys to kill yourselves. For other people, it could be completely different, where
Ex-
their allergies are life threatening. So I would communicate that to the.
I think that's a great point. And, the reaction one person has may be very different than the reaction another person has. And so it always needs to be taken seriously and given the full consideration of, our attention. I also, think it's really important to look at examples of, so I want to open up.
I lost you guys for a second.
Oh, hi. Yeah, welcome back. The joys
Yeah.
of technology. I'm just going to open up um, and share my screen here. Let's see here.
Oh, here's a good question for you, Kim. I would be curious. Would you recommend for children every so often or annually to get their blood checked, getting a food allergy test to stay on top of things, since I grew out of allergies as a child?
Absolutely. So at our clinic, one of the things that they do is so lab work typically annually, because what the allergists are looking for is that change in numbers over time. So maybe your sensitivity to the protein in that food has reduced enough where it may even be, you may then be a candidate for a food challenge. So a lot of our older kids, high school, college age, young adults, they may find my numbers have really changed over the years, and then the allergist finds them to be a candidate for a food challenge. And then if they do the food challenge, in the clinic, eating small doses of that food in a supervised setting, they may then realize that's a food I can incorporate into my diet now. I don't need to avoid that food. And that's huge, isn't it? To think
Huge.
I don't need to be afraid of almonds anymore. I can now have things containing almonds. So it's one less thing I need to be really observant and vigilant about, but also more food I can enjoy. So we love that for kids with food allergy. And we know getting your lab work done annually, a lot of kids have, they have sensitivity around needles, and they've had uh, just some fear that develops. And so I'm really glad you brought that up. And I would strongly encourage, get your lab work done so that you can see, because as those numbers change over time, you may grow out of an allergy, and that may be a food now. And that happens all the time. So kids with a dairy allergy, for example, they do a baked milk food challenge, and then they can work up often to having just raw milk in their diet so they don't have to avoid anything containing dairy. That's
Mhm.
huge. And really, now I'm not really avoiding as many foods, but I'm also getting to incorporate a lot more foods in diet. So before we finish and move into my mindfulness practice, I just want to, this is a resource we're going to share in the resources everybody will get in their follow-up email. But, signing up for any, whether it's soccer, dance, baseball, is something that we want to encourage kids to have the experience of being an athlete, learning new and challenging activities so that you can learn really valuable lessons about yourself and life, and you can meet people, make friends, and there's ways to do it safely. So this shows a role-playing activity for a common situation, a post-game, there's food. So it might be, that the coach, parent, and team, so the coach already being aware can say, a parent might forget and have brought in something. So in this example, cupcakes, and that covers, so it could be nut, but it also is the dairy and the egg. For a lot of kids, any baked goods off the table. So the team can also advocate, and they can say, hey, but wait, are those safe? So in this case, the twins that have an allergy, and that parent, I don't think it has any nuts. And the coach can step in and advocate too. And this is for our younger folks. I really appreciate that you did that, but those things are not things that we can share as a team. Thank you. And, having a backup snack in place, and then everybody can enjoy the backup snack, because, one thing kids with food allergy talk about a lot is it's hard to always be the one that has to have the different food, and everybody else is enjoying the pizza or the cupcakes, and I'm having a banana. So, there's ways that the parents can advocate, and that the team can also support and stand up for one another, and our coaches and parent support people can also step in and say, hey, that was really great, and I see your effort, but we really want to do something that helps everyone be able to be enjoying. And so we might do that when we're picking a restaurant too. So just ways that we can all help advocate, communicate, and come up with a plan that works so everybody can be safely involved and enjoy themselves. And Jonathan, thank you so much, because I think it's a great opportunity for people, for our kids, to see there's an older, a young adult, but older than me, who's been where I am, and he's still doing the thing he loves. And he tells me I can do it too. So I really appreciate you putting in that perspective for us.
Yeah, no problem. It was great. I was looking forward to this, and I know that it's not something that's easy to deal with as a kid. I definitely know that, but it's definitely attainable. It's definitely achievable, and you really do have to put yourself out there to take some risk, and that can be scary at first, but it definitely gets easier as time goes on. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. And as a coach, of course, you're really used to helping kids see how they can keep overcoming their perceived challenges. Like, you can keep learning how to do things. So everybody, I hope you can stay with me for a minute. I'm going to go into a mindfulness practice. We want to end every one of these with a tool, a strategy for you to be able to bring into your everyday life. So let's settle our body using our breath. Bring the air in through your nose or mouth. Relaxing into your chair. Feel your back upright and supported, your legs on the floor. Breathing in, just notice what it feels like to breathe. Bring your awareness to your low belly and imagine an ocean there. Imagine as you're breathing in and your belly's expanding, there's fish swimming in a colorful ocean, in a water wonderland. Just imagine as your belly's expanding, all the things that are going on in that beautiful ocean, and you're breathing in and breathing out. Moving your attention to your heart center. Now just imagine a garden, blooming flowers, or butterflies, or a gentle breeze. So as you breathe in, Feel that chest rise and fall. What else do you see? Imagining the most beautiful garden as you breathe in and your chest expands, all the beautiful colors and expansiveness. Now move your attention up to the center of your head. Imagine as you breathe out through the top of your head with a deep exhale. Imagine there's a still lake with crystal blue water, puffy, puffy white clouds. Bring your presence up a little further and imagine the cloud grows and grows with your breath. Imagining the cloud getting bigger, expanding with your breath, getting puffy and floating through the sky. Bringing your focus back down, just scan your body from the top of your head all the way down, out through your arms, your fingertips, out through your stomach, down your legs, and out through the bottom of your feet. Do you see or feel anything else? Can you breathe into every part of your body, letting it expand just like that cloud, letting it grow big, light, fluffy, and letting it move through. So bringing your breath to every part of your body, slowly, purposefully. We can always just take a moment as we move through our day and just settle and calm by letting ourselves feel that in breath and out breath. And if there's ever a moment, you're going to go and try something new this school year, remember, when I feel scared, it doesn't mean I can't do the thing I'm trying to do, but it might mean, as Jonathan said, I just need to keep trying, think about a different way to do it, plan, prepare, but don't tell myself I can't. There's always a way to figure out, how can I do this safely? How can I enjoy myself? I don't want to let fear stop me. So thanks to Jonathan. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the great questions, and we'll see you next time.